Welcome to Powered to Speak, the podcast. My guest today is Jill Nalder, and I am so excited about talking to you, Jill. For those of you that haven't heard of Jill is a West End superstar, and actually the inspiration behind Russell T Davies's amazing "It's a Sin." So, welcome, Jill. I'm so pleased to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. It's a bit of an honour to be asked to do podcasts for people. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what a story. What an amazing story you have, which obviously we will dive into a little bit. But I just want to touch on the fact that you are a housemate of a previous podcast guest of mine, J. Alexander.
I am. We've been friends we met when we were 14. So we've been friends for a very long time.
Yeah. So Jay is a musical director and very successful, again, a West End superstar. So you and Jay met back at drama school. What was the story there?
It wasn't even drama school. It was school, just a drama group linked to our actual schools. And you used to audition and then go off and do a sort of a residential course and put a production on at the end. It was West Glamorgan Youth Theatre, we loved it. It was fantastic. It was a good standard. It was a really excellent standard. Even if the productions were, we were all very young. You could be in it from the age of 13. Some people even, I think Russell T Davies was a member. I think he was one of the youngest members. He was a member from about the age of 12. So, you had a big variety of age groups of children and young adults. But the productions were finely tuned. We were disciplined, and it was a grounding in theatre. And I learned a lot that I still hear them. You can still hear your teachers in your mind when you put your costume on. Don't sit down in your costumes, and don't eat anything, don't drink anything in your costumes. And it still goes through my mind. So we had a very good theatre background training.
Yeah, and in the conversation I had with Jay, it just gobsmacked me actually how many successful actors and performers have come out of West Glamorgan.
There's a lot of people that have done extremely well. Top of the list, I suppose, is going to be Michael Sheen.
Yes,
because he's I hate to admit it, but a bit younger than me. But he was West Glamorgan Youth Theatre. Martin Ellis, Gareth Snook, Catherine Zeta-Jones was youth arts, so she was not on the youth theatre as such with the productions, but she would do the dance and. There was sort of branches of the arts as well, so she was a member of that. So yeah, so I guess Michael Sheen is our big star, and Russell T Davies, of course.
Yes,
who was writing back then, and who I had and I loved it when we did it, because you get put into your little groups and they give you projects and stuff to do, and I was given the task of directing the play called The Hot House, which was written by Russell T Davies. And it was brilliant. Wow. It was brilliant then. And he was, I don't know, he must have been about 15 when he wrote it. And it was so funny and so entertaining. So I really got lucky to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've got that on your CV, that you've directed a Russell T Davies.
Should have it. Never mind that I was 17.
Yeah, brilliant. But it's just that area of Wales as well. I mean, I think that's where Richard Burton and Anthony Hopkins and
there is all of that. I mean, it's a densely populated area of the world, and we are brought up in Wales. With the arts, we brought up singing and reading and poetry. I mean, my mum loved poetry. I love poetry. So I guess that there's a little bit. You could say that there's a little bit of the culture of the country that leads you into. Perhaps pursuing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay, I don't know if Jay told you when he was talking to you, his father is mentioned in Richard Burton's biography. So
that's right. Yes. I remember.
His father was telling the truth when he was talking to Richard.
Well, I mean, obviously there's Dylan Thomas as well. It's
glorious.
Yeah.
But of course he's much further up towards Swansea and area. So it's Port Talbot that used to produce all those people there, and I'm Neath, so I'm 5 miles up the road. And that's the whole culture of Wales, isn't it? Music and song. And
and I don't know. There's a kind of a resonance in the voice in those voices.
Oh well, Richard Burton's voice is second to none. Is that? And that's just you just want to listen to it. But you've got a lovely speaking voice.
Oh, well, mine's North London. That's how I ended up at Mountview, and we both went through Mountview Drama School, which is in Crouch End in North London. So how did that move make? What sent you to Mountview of all places?
Well, I was accepted. That was a big thing because I was auditioning and you know, I was offered a place. I was so excited and I just thought that sounded great. I didn't really have a whole load of experience to know what to do, you know. I just saw it advertised, knew it was one of the colleges that people were auditioning for, and I could sing, and there was a singing audition as well as the acting audition, so I liked that because I always have loved the idea of musical theatre.
Yeah, no, I think it is known for its musical theatre course, isn't it?
Yeah, so that I love that as well. Hence my Godspell picture behind me, which was a present from a girlfriend of mine, Frances, and it's an original poster design. It was one of the first shows that I saw that made me love musical theatre. So.
Yes. What year was that? That was early 70s, wasn't it?
That was early 70s, and I was a kid. We were taken from, well, it was a tour. I didn't see it in the West End. I saw the tour that came to Swansea Grand Theatre. So it was mid-70s, and we were taken on a school trip.
I think the first one that I saw in the West End that really gave me a knot in my stomach that made me think, you know, I need to get on a stage, I think it was Elvis. There was an Elvis where they did him a kind of a young Elvis, a middle Elvis, and an old Elvis.
No, was Simon Bowman in that?
Do you know, I can't remember.
He was, because I think he played the young Elvis, and he was in college with me, because I remember him getting that. And I remember there was a couple of different shows about Elvis on, and there was that one that did the 3 ages, and I think he was in it, and it was a lovely production. I remember.
It was, yeah, it got me very excited about doing theatrical stuff. I ended up going into teaching in the end after doing sort of auditions and things, because auditions are quite difficult, aren't they? I mean, you must have done a few in your time.
Awful auditions, and some ones that I think, you know, I did my best and still didn't get it, and all that kind of thing. So it is a minefield of horror, I think, sometimes.
Yes.
You know, and you face all these people and you can see them talking, and sometimes, you know, they're not even talking about you, they're talking about how soon they can get out of this and go for lunch. And then I was talking about that experience I had when I first came out. We had to do audition technique. I don't know if when you were in Mountview you did audition technique.
No, I don't think we did.
We had a day where we could practice our speeches and everything, and, you know, to just give it a whirl, really. And so I had my I thought I was being kind of outrageous. I thought, this is what you do if you're an actress. So I had planned a speech from a play where I would take my dress off, or at least, you know, I was preparing to, I don't know, get into bed with somebody. I can't even remember what the speech was, but what I do remember is I only ever did it the once, because I had this fantastic dress which buttoned all the way up, down. I could take the dress off, and I'd forgotten when I was doing the performance that there was buttons on the wrists. So I took the dress off, trying to be all like whatever it was. Got completely trapped in the frock, in the dress, finished the speech. I didn't have the confidence to, like, you know, just undress myself properly. So I stayed trapped, and I did the rest of my speech sort of like that.
But I assume you were wearing something underneath.
I was. Oh yes, I should have said that, shouldn't I? Yeah, I really planned to remove the level of clothing for the effect. So I was wearing underneath, a little sort of what I thought was quite a glamorous petticoat, they call it.
Yeah, I mean, they are such, well, because they're so out of context, aren't they, audition pieces? I mean, you have a speech or a monologue that you prepare, and then, you know, you haven't got the rest of the play to kind of, as a run-up, you literally step on the stage and do your speech.
And to be fair, you know, I don't know about other actors and actresses out there, but you don't get asked for a monologue that often. I mean, it's not something, you mostly will get a piece of script. So it's just rare to be asked to do this. For me at that time, to be asked to do the monologue anyway, I just looked like a git. So now and I laugh, but, you know, at the time you just lose confidence when things like go wrong in auditions. So.
Yeah, I have to say I did hate them. They really did put me off, which is what I do. I now help people get through that process so that they actually feel quite comfortable when they get on the stage, I would hope.
You do need help. You do. You need to practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Because there is a certain level of, okay, I know how to place it now in my voice, or I know what I'm doing, or I like it if I'm asked to read some script with someone.
Yeah. Have you got a tip for anybody going into an audition?
Oh, look, do you know what? I have got a tip really, because, and I take it because I hear it from Jay. You know, they want you to be good, and I think that's hard for an actor to remember, because they want you to give it your best shot, and I think that's quite a nice thing to think of, because you hear these saying, you know, oh, think of them naked, or think of them on the loo, and I never do that. You never go on stage. No. I'm going to think of you all naked.
No.
You know, in things like that. But remember that they are on your side, really. They're not there. And so I think that does help. It's not a room full of hostility. They want you to give your best shot. So yeah, I think that isn't a little bit calming sometimes. Yeah. Depends on how many times you call back and how near you are to getting something. I was quite calm on the day I went, actually. I went to a Mamma Mia for the second film audition. I was called in. I didn't even seek the audition. And then I thought, fabulous, this is brilliant. So I go to the audition, and really it's a chat. It's more like how you look and what they're doing. And you know, I'd done a film with some people that were involved with it before, which is how I got called along. I thought, this is fabulous. They took me in, fitted costume for me. I went in to speak to somebody else. My picture was on the wall. Meryl Streep was on the same wall I had. And so were all the other people. It wasn't just me and Meryl Streep, but she was up there, and I thought, oh my God, I'm loving this. Never heard another word. I went out to that audition. I waited. I thought, unless a week has gone, another week has gone, another week. No, I never heard another word. So sometimes it's so disappointing. So it is
disappointing, especially you think they would have the courtesy just to email and say, no, thank you.
Well, you'd think, wouldn't you? But if it doesn't happen, you know it doesn't happen. And so, you know, I kept thinking, surely they'd say thanks, but no thanks now. So then you keep your hopes up. But they probably had decided that afternoon, well, they'll go with the other person or whatever they decide. But,
yeah. And it is that thing as well of just realizing that it is not to take it personally, because sometimes you just walk into the room and they know just by looking at you that you're not right.
Yes, I know, it's true. And it's all of that, isn't it? And it's all of you being your best on the day, you know, the best you can be. And I think I always feel better. I think, well, I did the best I could. I didn't let myself down. So I'll live with it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Well, let's go back to those early days. Obviously, you've arrived in Mount View, and you've sort of come from this pool of incredible talent from West Glamorgan, including Russell T Davies and Jay. And you've moved down to London to Mount View, and you were with students. You rented the flat, which is now known as the Pink Palace.
Yeah. We were all Well, we were from the youth theatre, and some people that I met in London as well, but a lot from West Glamorgan, because it was Jay that found the Pink Palace with Martin Ellis, and then we went to see it, and it was fantastic. It was, and it was an absolutely amazing flat for students, because it was so glamorous, it was so pink, and it had chandeliers and beautiful silver service. You know, we couldn't really believe our luck, because we had lived in some rough places. I mean, you know, it's difficult to find places. It's difficult to afford places when you're a student. This place was absolutely affordable. It was the top of, you know, the bottom of a place called Charles Hill, which is very close to Hampstead Heath. So it's a beautiful part of London.
Yeah.
Absolutely landed on our feet. So
what were they thinking? Whoever your landlord was, what were they thinking?
What were they thinking? Because this lovely man had turned up to show Jay the flat, and it has been his mother's flat, and it had this very sort of, as if it had been designed by a very well-to-do, you know, older lady. It had that feel to it. And why he thought it was okay for students, I don't know, but we had a party for 30 people that slept over one night. So but we didn't wreck it or anything. We really didn't. We you know, but we partied.
Yes. Well, you have to, you know, going back there, I remember those days well. Just a little bit of context. Obviously, Russell T Davies then went on to write It's a Sin, which was a huge hit of a TV series earlier in the year, I think, this year.
Yeah, it was in February. And gosh, you know, our feet didn't touch the floor for weeks after it, because it had such a response. I mean, Russell I know that Russell was overwhelmed. He really was, because he was not expecting to get the level of, I don't know, love and appreciation and care for the people. And so it has been remarkable.
Yes. And you were the inspiration for Jill. I mean, and I saw Russell interviewed, I think, on the Loose Women, and he was saying that he couldn't even change, there's an amalgamation of different characters. They're not necessarily all set about the actual characters that were there. But with your character, he said he couldn't even change the name to anything else. It had to be Jill. So how did it feel to have that written about you and the circumstances?
Well, I never really saw it coming, to be fair. I chatted with him about what it was like in the 80s and in the 90s as well, because it didn't end in the 80s, although that was set moreover through that decade. And I didn't really take on board the enormity of Russell in the first place. I mean, I know that everybody loves him, and I know that what he does is so highly prized, but I never saw I could never see coming the huge effect that it would have. So it shocked me. It was very, very surreal. And also he had his dramatic license. So not absolutely everything is exactly as it happened, because he didn't write the life story of Jill Nalder. He wrote Jill's, the experiences of the 80s around what it was like for me. So I do keep telling people that I wasn't beaten over the head by the police, I have to say.
Yeah.
That was a total, like, Russell might have thought, I'd like that to happen to Jill, but
a bit of artistic license there.
So I have said that I wasn't that brave to sort of fight the police off, but
yeah,
I mean, hospital visits for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting and watching it kind of starts with this sort of very joyful, London young people going out and enjoying themselves, with the freedom of leaving home and all of those things. And then obviously
he captured that, I think.
Yeah, and then obviously HIV sort of started creeping in, and it was quite clear that obviously, and I remember I was there. I was at fashion college. I was doing fashion and textiles at the time. So yes, it kind of sort of seeped into, what is this?
Yeah, and when you think of it now, like, with COVID and the fact that everyone's going, it's now ruining your sort of the way that you want your life to be lived. It for a while, and carrying on into losing people, completely destroyed the life that you thought you could live, because you were suddenly surrounded by people dying, and in secrecy so often, or not even being able to feel free to be honest about stuff. So
yeah,
I think that he did capture that. He lived through it, so he knew. He just wasn't in London, and I think London was a big epicenter of people that came to hospitals in London or had come to live in London and were looking for that freedom that you talked about just there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so it really did go from, but on the other side, like any humans in any situation, you then find how you're going to deal with it, and I think our way to deal with it, and my way, was to be as active as I could, to help out, to be there, to fundraise, that kind of thing. Because Russell did a lot of that political sort of side of things with ACT UP and that in It's a Sin. And I think in my real world, I did a lot of organising events, fundraising, marches, that kind of thing, for awareness, as opposed to actually fighting. Although we knew about the drugs that were out there, and we knew things, we petitioned a fair bit against. You felt like sometimes there's a real juxtaposition, because you feel like sometimes gay men are not getting the treatment because there's not enough research, because no one's that interested, because it's gay men that are getting ill. But on the other hand, then something comes out and the gay men are used as guinea pigs. So it's a real a battleground, really, between, yes, we need some drugs, but yes, we don't want to just be, or not we, because it wasn't me taking them, but they didn't just want to be experimented on in a way, just being the guinea pigs, and these drugs are not really like everyone is with the vaccines now, you know, some people don't feel safe. Well, the side effects of things like AZT were drastic. I mean, they made people very ill. So it was very tempestuous. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it must have been so frightening for those guys in the beginning there.
Awful, absolutely awful, because you just did not know. And you know, there was a lot of dark humor about things, and, you know, trying to be flippant about it, but it was the horror of finding some mark on your body or something. Somebody'd say, well, you're not looking well, are you all right? And it would put a real fear into people. So
yeah, I mean, it's that fact that for those young men, it was quite often a secret from their families. So that must have been, you know, doubly difficult.
Awful. And it was mums and dads, really. You know, a lot of people trusted their brothers and sisters, and then that was a burden for the brothers and sisters, because you feel like, you know, or maybe you could tell your mum and then don't tell your dad, or, you know, my mum knows I'm gay but my dad doesn't. And, you know, it was a conundrum, really, because everyone's families were different. Some families were amazing. Some families were so steeped in the fear of homosexuality that the first door wasn't open, so you couldn't open the second door.
No, I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Now we're looking back, how awful it was back then to be a gay man, just to be demonized for being gay.
And I think they and we and you in the fashion and me in the theatre, I think you kind of accepted it as normal. It's weird when you think of it now, because we thought we were living through a very free time when life started, and it's when you look back at it, you think, gosh, really? You know, it was because our little world was a very free and open place, and I'm sure it is exactly the same in fashion.
Yeah,
you know, that world is very free as far as sexuality goes, and so it felt like normal that you would, if you were going home and you were going to be with where there was a lot of like straight men in a club or something, like in a rugby club or something like that, then you would never behave or speak about your sexuality. If you were a gay man, you would always try to hide that.
So I mean, obviously you played, Russell cast you as Jill's mother, which must have been quite strange. But how did your parents feel about you living in this sort of atmosphere? Did they understand what was going on?
Yes, they did. They did understand. And my parents are now not alive to have seen what's happened with It's a Sin and everything. So that is a little bit of a shame, because, well, it's a huge shame. Because they were very much like they were portrayed, you know, to be Jill's parents. I was told by the director that the Steve Toussaint and myself, we were representing what might be the parents of the future. You know, that it was going to be we were tolerant parents of the character Jill. And Russell knew my parents and knew that they were tolerant parents. They were very accepting. They were older when they had me, which I think might make a difference in life, you know, when they were in their mid-30s, which was older back then. I know that's like very common now, but back in the 60s, that was a little bit older than most people's parents. So I think they'd had some experience of life. They literally did love my friends, and that's the truth.
Oh, that's lovely. So how long then after, obviously the initial fear and the realization, because it really struck me, this kind of thing that boys would disappear. So they'd go home and then you'd never see them again.
Well, that is the truth. And the weird truth is, and I was telling you earlier on now, and I am writing this book, which I was asked to write about life life through the 80s and how it is with AIDS. And not only did they disappear then because they were ashamed or their families were ashamed and they went home and then you never really heard from them again. Even looking for people, like looking for their names and things like that online or trying to find out about people, they've still disappeared. You know, I still have lost people that, not close people, but I still know of people that we'd heard and we've always thought, oh, they had AIDS.
Yeah.
And we still don't really know. You know, all these years later, it's still quite hard to to find out what happened to somebody. So, and that's been quite a surprise to me, because you'd think, okay, you might be able to find out what had happened to so-and-so, what happened. And to be fair, a lot of people are proud and out there and saying what had happened. And, you know, it's the same as if somebody, but you'd never hide that someone had died of cancer or.
No.
But
no.
You still do with AIDS, I think.
Yeah, I think there is still a slight stigma, isn't there? I mean, it's obviously a lot better now, and people realise that there are now drugs that, you know, just help people live with it, and they're very successful.
And you have every right in life to be private about your health, and to have kept that private from the rest of the world. But there are still a lot of people who don't just like to say, like someone might say, oh, I'm diabetic. I think very few people say, oh, by the way, I am HIV positive.
Yeah.
Still got that stigma to it. And
yeah,
I've had young people come to me because of It's a Sin, and I had some very moving things happen to me where young men have come to me quite tearful, actually, and say, you know, I'm HIV positive and I haven't really been open about it. So, and that's today in the last year. So
yeah,
it's not easy for people.
But it kind of, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think it kind of had its time. It was splashed all over the media. There were tombstones, there were, you know, don't die of ignorance and all of those things. And then it kind of, once there was something, or they realized that actually there were the drugs that could prevent it, or it was only happening to gay men, it kind of went out of the you know, people's thoughts. And so there was never education around, I don't know, it just, you know, even kids today probably don't even know what AIDS is.
No, they probably don't. But young people out there sort of in their 20s, they are taking the PrEP and the stuff to take to keep themselves safe and to be open about their diagnosis on, you know, the gay website, you know, dating websites and things like that. Such an old-fashioned phrase. I'm just going to say Grindr and things like that, where people put their status on and you know, very open about it. But I don't know whether they're open about it with all their friends, or whether they're open in work, or you know, stuff like that. So I think there's still degrees of secrecy.
Yeah. And so the activism sort of started how long after the initial kind of realization of what was happening did you kind of getting to the fact that obviously you needed to raise funds and awareness? And
well, that happened then really when I got into Les Miserables.
Yes.
So, and then there was a pool of people in Les Miserables who were, you know, up for doing what they did on Broadway, because it wasn't our idea, it was a Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS idea. And obviously things are even harder in America because you have to fund your medical treatment. So here you have the national health, but there, of course, they were desperate for money, some people. So they started that, and then we cottoned onto that idea with West End Cares. And so we set it up from Les Miserables. West End Cares, the title had been used, but we took it over, and that went on for, well, it became West End Cares, and then subsequently became Theatre Mad, which was Theatre Make a Difference. And that only has just wound up now because of COVID.
Yeah.
It couldn't keep going, really, with everybody's trying to fundraise for all kinds of different things. So it wound up as a charity, but it does not mean that we can't do an event, that we could raise money for any, you know, other sort of AIDS-related charity, like the Terence Higgins Trust, which is amazing. The Sussex Beacon, which I was telling you about, that made me a patron. And so
well, tell us a little bit about Sussex Beacon, because you recorded a song for them, didn't you, with Jay and the WestEnders?
Yes, we did, and we thought it was a good idea, because in It's a Sin you saw Richie, which is kind of Jay's like loosely based on me and Jay doing the cabaret scene when we did a lot of the gay clubs and things like that when we were in our 20s. And one of the songs they were singing in It's a Sin was One Voice. So we thought, okay, that's a nice little link to It's a Sin. It's a nice link to fundraising for the Sussex Beacon, which is for AIDS and other health concerns now. And also it suits the WestEnders because there's 6 of us, nice harmonies, beautiful song with a sort of big key change and all that kind of thing. So we recorded it, and because we are so technologically brilliant now, it took us absolutely ages to work out how to promote this legally as a download and pay the right people and do all of that. And we finally managed to get it for release on Amazon and on iTunes. So 90p for money then to go to the Sussex Beacon. And oh my gosh, technology and this license and that license, it's a minefield.
Yeah. Did you have to go to Barry Manilow? Did he write it? He wrote it.
Yes, and you had to go to Barry Manilow's estate. I know he's still alive, but you had to go to the owners of the records and find out who has the rights. But it's like create an account, download your information, and then they get back to you. And honestly, I mean, it wasn't me that did that. It was a couple of the boys in the WestEnders who are so much better with technology. Yeah. And they were finding it hard. So.
Yes. Well, I mean, the world, obviously, in these pandemic times that we're living in, the social media and our online world has exploded. And if that's not what you were doing before, suddenly, including myself, have had to very, very quickly get to know how to use all this stuff.
Well, this is amazing, isn't it? Because here's you and me now. And as soon as I couldn't get the first link to work. And as soon as you said Zoom, I thought, okay, I know Zoom. That one, and that's worked very well for me eventually. Zoom, and then I had one that was on Teams, and I thought, oh my god, what's Teams? And so then I found that out, and then yours was something different.
Yes, sorry about that. I threw you completely. back to good old fashioned. Well, good old fashioned Zoom. It is now. Exactly.
Yeah. It's a lovely picture, and it's easy. It seems to be easy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I do know on Facebook, because I'm friends with Jay on Facebook, that you are known as not on Facebook Jill. Or
Jill who won't be on Facebook.
Jill who won't be on Facebook, that's right.
On Facebook. The thing is, he's done that all the time. And so now it's become a sort of a thing, a little thing that people have on Facebook. And I seem to be on Facebook, even though I don't do it. And I had a dream one night. And I was on a train, and a ticket collector was coming around, and he took my ticket from me, and he went, "Are you Jill who won't be on Facebook?" In my dream, it was so haunting. The whole Facebook thing. And I've done some on Instagram now, but I apologize to anyone who might be listening to us today that if they've tried to get me on social media, I'm just hopeless. So I do look at my Instagram, and then I think, why have I pressed that? And I think I press a picture. I'm afraid that every picture I own in the world will suddenly come on Instagram and think I've done the wrong thing again. So
it is scary, but
also it has been nice. So I'm not going to say that. I've had lovely things sent to me on Instagram, really nice comments. Some of the people that, some of the family members of the boys that were kind of alluded to in It's a Sin, and who have, because everybody's watched It's a Sin and thought, gosh, that's my story, because it's such a common line in the story. And some people contacted me, family members, and said, I think that was about my uncle. You were friends with my uncle, and stuff like that. So that's been very touching and lovely. Most of that happened through social media.
I mean, this is never going to go away now, is it? I mean, we've all discovered that we are totally connectable across the world. At the click of a button, kind of thing.
No, and I had a lovely little message sent to me by a girlfriend of one of the boys that died back in the 80s, and today she got in touch with me, and that was brilliant. And that was through Jay on Facebook, actually. So I have to say, I've used it vicariously.
So where did Be More Jill come from? Because that's a hashtag now, isn't it? Be More Jill. Who started that? Where did that come from?
Somebody somewhere. I have no idea. That came through to me, and I literally felt like quite overwhelmed by that, because it was nothing somebody out there started it. Is there a Be More various things going on, like memes? And I didn't even know what that was, and then I suddenly said Be More Jill, and suddenly it's on a handbag and a cushion, and oh my god, I thought I would love my mum to see this, because first of all she'd be thrilled to bits, but she would be laughing.
Be More Jill. I mean, that just is well, I mean, it's such a
is it? It's so lovely.
It's amazing.
It's so lovely. It's surreal and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's funny and it's touching and it's everything, isn't it? Because
it is.
When I see Be More Jill on a mask, I'm thinking, oh, crazy.
Excellent. So is all this stuff is going in the book? Is it? So how far through the book are you?
Well, I am very far through it now. You know, I've been doing it since May, when I was actually asked to do it. And first of all, I thought, I couldn't imagine that anyone will want me to do that. And then, you know, conversation, and you think, I should accept this challenge. It is a challenge. I should accept it. It's a nice way to pay tribute to the boys, which was very, very important to me, because all of this, anything lovely that is happening to me through It's a Sin, it's sad now, because anything lovely that's happening to me is on the back of what happened to them.
Yeah.
And so that's a sadness. And then I thought, it's a nice way to tell the story of how brave and how amazing they were. So I wanted to do it for that reason. And I wanted to do it for the challenge for myself, because as well, there has been so little work. So it was something to think about and to do and to test myself with. So all of that.
Yes. I mean, and you are their spokesperson, aren't you? You are now their voice. And
that's a major, that's as much of a responsibility as the secrecy was at the time.
Yeah.
Because that isn't you've just made me think, oh my gosh, that's even more of a responsibility. But they were amazing, and I want that to, you know, that was my chance. And if I said no, I would probably regret that.
Yeah. Oh well, good luck with it, and I look forward to reading it.
Regardless of you know, what people might say about it, because I know people have all kinds of opinions. I try to be as honest as I can. I've tried to be, you know, tried to portray them as lovely. I also tried to tell a little bit of how it was without being too graphic about everything. But, you know, but they were amazing. And the close circle to me were amazing. But there was also thousands of other boys in situations with thousands of other Jills doing what they were doing. And so hopefully people will identify a bit with that as well.
Yeah, no, that's it. And as you say, it's kind of brought everything back into the public eye when it had almost been forgotten, which is terrible.
That's what Russell did, and that's what Russell managed to do so brilliantly.
Yeah,
so brilliantly. Yeah. He's amazing.
I mean, I would recommend anybody out there that hasn't seen it, go and watch It's a Sin. I mean, it's slightly harrowing, but actually, you know, it's a story that needed to be told. So I think
humor from Russell T Davies.
Yes,
well, so he is so funny.
And fabulous performances from everybody.
And brilliant performances from people, especially Keely and Lydia and Ollie. All those young people that did that were amazing.
Yeah. So apart from writing the book in lockdown, I seem to think that you and Jay were doing some comedy sketches, or
I love that you found that, because it was a youth theatre. It's a comedy, like few lines of dialogue, but we had to find a way to stage it. And it was the opening speech from Under Milkwood. It is a spring moonless night in a small town, and all of that. And Michael Sheen does his line in it. So everybody, ex-past members of the youth theatre, were asked to do a couple of lines to do the opening monologue, and then it was put onto YouTube or Instagram or what it was on as a little thing from the West Glamorgan Youth Theatre. And some of it it's all lovely, because Dylan Thomas, what's not to like really with his writing, because for me it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's so interesting how people did it, their lines. Anyway, me and Jay did our lines in as if we were in bed blowing the candle out, so we staged it all. And if you start staging anything with Jay, he has to get the lighting right. We did it with lighting, and then we just put it black and white. Should we leave it in black and white? Should we do this? It was fun. It was really fun. So it was one of those little lockdown things. With the WestEnders, we did a little series of Doctor Theatre, and we did we were singing a song each night, or not each night, every few nights we posted another thing onto YouTube, or it was Instagram at the time. I think we were trying to do it just to keep ourselves going.
Yeah,
because nobody saw it going on as long as it was going on, so we thought we could keep ourselves occupied for a couple of months, you know, doing various things.
No, I think you're not the only one. I've had a couple of actors on the podcast talking about just how they keep themselves going over lockdown, because, you know, to not be able to perform, to do what you do in front of an audience is not good for your mental health, not good for your well-being, really.
It's all that, isn't it? It's your mental health, it's your creative health, it's your financial health.
Yeah.
You know, that comes the worry of where's the money coming from, and some people fell through the net with the SACE payments and all that kind of thing. So it's been a challenge all around, and I know people have done things that people have done have made me laugh out loud. Some of the hysterical stuff that's been out there, some brilliant things, and so I think people have been creative.
Yeah. My creativity was starting a podcast.
Well, how brilliant is that? I mean, how fantastic is that? And to talk to, and then it's like it's some people doing stuff like that is what's kept us going, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just that connection through a screen even is and actually I find it a little bit more intimate. You can get to know people better, I think, somehow, than going out to a venue, going out to a space, and talking to people.
There is a little bit of that to it. I think you could be right about that, and you feel quite relaxed on it eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's all of that. It's everything that people have done is there'll be a legacy from that, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. There will be. Well, just before we finish, I would love to talk a little bit about the WestEnders, because that's what you're doing now. And I know, sort of coming out of lockdown, you've been waiting for those cruise ships to get back out there. So tell us a little bit about how the WestEnders started and what you're doing now with them.
Well, it started in Les Miserables with me and Linda Jarvis sharing a dressing room and wondering what we were going to do. And we've been doing a lot of the West End Cares nights, fundraising nights. And we thought, well, actually, if, they seem to go very well, just a sort of amalgamation of musical theatre, all kinds of entertainment seem to go very well with audiences. Why don't we try and do it in a different way and try and put on a night for, say, corporate entertainment? So we started to get some ideas and with Jay involved and some other people, 6 of us, and then it just grew from there. And then eventually, of course, we started it for corporate entertainment, and then it became a theatre show. And then somebody said, you'd go very well on a cruise ship. And we thought, not sure about that, whether it's a good idea or not, because there's some that used to be, foolishly, some snobbishness about the cruise ships. But let me tell you, it's been a joy to go and sing for a couple of weeks on a ship, and we are treated very well. We don't do the, there's a difference. There's very young dancers that go onto a cruise ship and they get experience and they do the ship show, and it's very brilliant standard and everything. But what we do is we go on as an act, and we're a different kind of act. So we go on as passengers, and we just do some shows, maybe 2 or 3 shows in, say, 2 weeks. We might do 4 different shows. The rest of the time, of course, you are the entertainment, so you have certain boundaries whereby you are there to entertain, you're there to speak with passengers, you're there to be part and parcel of the cruise ship. It's not nice to hide yourself away and emerge to do a song and then go back into your cabin. But it could not be more fantastic for me. It shows me the world. It shows me the size of the planet as you're sailing across the ocean. Cape Town, brilliantly, we sailed up the Amazon. It's a joy of life, and that has been a joy of life.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yes, because I love to travel, and it has given you a chance to see places that you would never be able to go to. I've been to the Falkland Islands and to some places like St. Helena, right in the middle of the Atlantic. You would never say, oh, I'll go on a holiday to somewhere like that. So it's given you a chance to explore the world, and that with your friends, doing what you love. So
out there performing, as you say, doing what you love.
You asked me what I'm promoting. I'm promoting cruising because I think it's a lovely way to see the planet. Also, I know now the other thing I like to try to think about is climate change and the environment, and I'm a big sort of promoter of that as a way forward. So I know that cruising has to change a lot as far as its environmental policies and that.
Yeah, but and certainly I would imagine it's better than being on Shaftesbury Avenue every night for with the dressing rooms and some of those old theatres. They're not quite cruise ship level, are they?
It's all very different. It's just different. It's if you do everything too much, it's variety is the spice of life, isn't it? And for us, they don't come that often. It's because we're a big company, and so the ships don't want to take us, have all that cabins and flights and stuff like that. So it's a treat when it happens.
Yeah.
A lot of the time we are going up and down the country, which is also lovely in its way, you know, but we can leave London at 6 a.m. and be on stage in Inverness, and we've done that in the evening, and that's exhausting, you know. So then when somebody says, oh, you can be on a cruise ship and sit in your cabin and walk up to the yacht club and have a glass of prosecco.
Yeah, I know where I'd rather be. Sounds perfect. And obviously you've had many, many years. I mean, we didn't even touch on Les Mis and Oliver and, you know, everything else that you've done. I mean, you've had an amazing career.
Thank you. That was, you know, anyone, as we all know what it's like if you get into a West End show. It's a little bit of security, especially in Les Miserables, but you knew it wasn't going to close.
How long were you in Les Mis?
I was there for just over 4 years.
And that was
I did it in stints. I was there maybe nearly 5 years at the end of it all. But I was there for a couple of years, and then I went back to Oliver. No, I went on to Oliver. I didn't go back to Oliver. I got that job with the original cast of the revival at the Palladium. So I went and did that for a couple of years, and then they offered me first cover to Madame Thénardier. So I came back to Les Miserables because I thought, well, that's nice. I'll get to play Madame Thénardier. And, you know, I'm still in the West End because it was still about, I don't know, being around and at my home and things like that, which was lovely, because when you've toured, I toured a lot and I did a lot of rep. So you're away from home a lot. And so then it was just an exciting thing to be in the West End.
Yeah.
I love it all. I do love it. I love the theatre. I love the shows. I love being lucky to be able to do it. For a lot of my life, I've had loads of other things that I've had to do along the way to keep the money coming in, but you know, I try to work hard and do my best, really.
Yeah, perfect. Well done. An amazing career, and it's been so fantastic to talk to you. I'm so glad you agreed to come and talk to me. So thank you so much. I
really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, I will let you get on with your day. Thank you very much, Jill. Bye bye.